And that part, that's our life equity, right? Our
Yep.
sweat equity or life equity.
Yep.
And I think we're going to try to do it in ADA. I think Judy mentioned, paying dues in ADA
Yeah.
and start getting uh, fluent in that language. And so, but we might also, I think dues and silver, like, would there be a conversation around having some gold and silver as, or diversifying, our treasury
It would be
so that
very
when
good.
we get so much ADA, we'd buy silver or, I don't know, maybe somebody would donate an ounce of silver or that's a lot to donate, but maybe not, maybe $87, maybe we could, as like, put your ante in, the pot.
Yeah.
So we'd have something that would feel substantial.
Yeah.
I didn't know I was going to say that, but what are your thoughts on that, Paul? Would
Oh,
that be?
that's a great idea. And the diversification's important. The nature's market, they use some Canadian dollars because we need it,
Yeah.
but they have Bitcoin and silver as well.
So I think that's a good idea to mention that kind of in the dues or maybe the ante up is that we have a little ante and everybody, I think it's important unless, maybe Elaine, I don't know her financial, and I don't want to say, oh, it's important that everybody do that, but there's it's staking, and it's like, I'm here. You can count on,
Hmm.
you know,
Hmm.
when you, and maybe $88 isn't a lot, or maybe a half an ounce of silver, or something of silver. Maybe let's just let that mull a little bit, and maybe just we could whatever partial payment or whatever part of silver you could afford to ante. I don't
Yeah.
know. Gold is ridiculous, so we won't even go to gold.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's not much point there. You may consider, though, gold backs, which are the polymer notes that have gold in them.
Yeah.
You might do that because there you can get started for like $15, I think, $20.
So then we could have like a diversity in gold and silver, and
Yeah.
I think that's a good idea, Paul. Do you want me to? I won't remember the Palomar because I don't know what that is, but
Oh,
I
that's
could.
okay.
I
Yeah,
could
we can
well,
talk
we could
gold.
just say the diversity of, and I don't even know if it'll come up tomorrow where we're going to do the thing about dues, but it's just my thinking.
Another thing to consider, and this would be good for you to bring up,
All right,
and
I
that
will.
is
Let's see
the
what
the
happens.
idea that like Kara, I don't think she
Yeah.
has any money, but
Oh, she did.
she's
Okay.
she's putting for what's that?
No, no. Okay. I was just going,
Yeah,
okay.
but yet I think that the initiative that she's taken has a form of equity.
I absolutely do. I
Yeah,
sweat equity. It's like I can't do that, but this is what I can do.
yeah.
She approached me and wanted to like think about ideas. I just can't do that. I can't add another thing to my little, you know,
Oh yeah, a
unless
lot
it,
to do. A
unless
lot.
I feel I have to, unless it's
Yeah.
really up to me, and that isn't, it's more of a lateral move, and
Oh,
so
and take into consideration too, big age difference in goals,
yeah,
right? Yeah, I'm of the mind that you are going to have more of a, oh, that's a great idea, Kara, go and do it kind of
yeah,
approach simply
yeah.
because of the age difference, right?
That's right, and it
Yeah,
really makes a huge difference, and it's not just energy, it's the ability to hold it. The way I describe it is the myelin sheath on my nerves is
yeah,
disintegrating,
yeah.
or is lessening, because then everything is like a big deal to me, where that never was the case before,
Hmm.
so whatever the little thing is that's wearing down, and so it's a big deal, and I can only hold so many of those big deals.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so that's where, yeah. Anyway, so but maybe we could look at ADA too, and we could look at the market that we didn't look at yesterday, if it's okay with you, or what would you like to do?
Yeah, well, I'll go through the metals. I'll go through the main
Yeah,
the main ones that we
let's
normally go through.
yeah, okay.
So
Oh,
we
look
yeah,
at
gold,
here.
gold. What's
Audrey
that?
here. Audrey.
Yeah, she made it. Yeah, she made it. So yeah, gold, look at that, how this all played out here in the last little while. We had that jump up starting Sunday night when the markets opened in London. That jump up resulted in a nice little increase, and then what do you know? During the day yesterday and going into this morning, the price came back and retested the top side of that pivot line. And if it bounces off, like I think it's going to bounce off, it'll probably go and challenge that all-time high in the next movement. Simply because, well, there is another pivot point right here, around 53.75 or so, but it didn't provide any resistance the last time. So this is uncharted territory as far as what pivot points are going to be. I think that we are. I think we are going to see a shoot up to that all-time high soon. Then, of course, gold and silver ratio pretty much hanging out because we've been seeing gold and silver consolidate a bunch. Went down a little bit over the last few days simply because of the price of gold jumping up. But again, it's bouncing around. So right now, that ratio is pretty stagnant, consolidating. Next, we've got the US 30, which is actually below that pivot point now. So that's another loss for the stock market. But of course, we don't really care too much about what the price action of this is anymore. We're looking more so what is the true value of this in accordance to gold. We have to remember nations will be renegotiating their energy contracts with each other using metals as a base because the US dollar is no longer the world reserve currency. And so we take the price of the Dow Jones, and of course my calculator is a little bit delayed here this morning. There we go. 49,227, and we divide that by the price of gold, which is currently 51.57, and we have 9.54. And I'm going to go 9.55 because it's rounded. And then for silver, this number is going to be again the 49,227. Divide that by the price of silver at 87.55. And we have 562 ounces of silver. So we're continuing to see that while the gold went down, or it went down in value according to gold a little bit, where it takes 0.2 ounces more, so 2/10 of an ounce more for of gold. But that's to be expected, simply because gold consolidated since yesterday.
Hey, Paul, if the dollar isn't going to be the world currency, or will one currency, fiat currency, become the world currency? Or are they expecting Bitcoin to become the world currency? What is what's the shuffling going on about? Is there a vying for the world currency? Right now it's the dollar. What are your thoughts? I mean, is that even a legitimate question? I don't know. Or if it's a viable one, or even one that's up.
Well, one of the things that's on the horizon is the BRICS banks. And the BRICS banks, that's the acronym is BRICS, and that is signifying the basket of currencies for Brazil, Russia, India, C is China, and S is South Africa. So that group of countries, they have established a their own banking system. And I think what will occur is it will start to see nations use that as a means to trade back and forth with one another, but that it will still be especially at first, it'll be renegotiated to metals. So whatever that currency ends up becoming, the nations in the end they're going to be like, well, how much is it worth in like in energy? How much is it worth in gold or silver? I mean, we saw that first occur with Iran in 2014 when they said they were no longer going to use US treasuries in exchanging their oil for with Russia and China. And that was a big statement, and they got away with it for a long time because people to do that before, that was Gaddafi. And he was of course murdered for doing something like that.
But so did they say, like, okay, now we're going to trade in gold, but how much is gold worth? Who
Yeah,
gets
well,
to see what that
that's
is?
that's the thing, right? Is that we are still going around, especially in this part of the world, the Western world, we're still going around saying that gold is worth X amount US dollars.
Right, exactly.
That's why I like to say, okay, well, if the US dollar is largely calculated off of the strength of the economy,
Yeah.
then we'll use this as a measure of the economy, but let's compare it to gold and silver so that we get a more accurate representation of how much it's worth.
I'm hearing that. What about like to the BRICS? How do they, what is their standard,
Yeah,
you
I
know,
don't know. I'm
of
not sure.
change?
It'd be good to find out. I think that like from last I heard was that they hadn't had, that one currency similar to what we have with the US dollar or what Europe does, right? Europe
Yeah,
has got the euro, right?
the euro. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm not sure if what they have is in place for that yet. It could very well. I admittedly haven't been keeping nearly as much track on that as I had in the past.
Well,
But
what's
that
interesting is the euro didn't work really. They're
no,
kind of abandoning that. So
that was a
that's
failure for to begin with. Yeah.
so a world experiment in that people are kind of shy of investing life energy, your life energy of, in that. So I don't know. Yeah. So it's up for really everything's kind of like
I know.
the tides are coming in, and what wave is what wave.
Yeah.
All right. So it's good. It's good to see the kind of the background kind of like thing of like why you're concerned with gold and silver compared to the 30, the stock market 30 or S&P 30 or whatever.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. All I know is that this reset will require all the currencies to be renegotiated. Like, I mean, everybody has been using US treasuries. All of them. China even still has US treasuries. Now they've been selling them off like hotcakes for the last 5 years. But they've been selling they still have some, right? So the reckoning is coming.
Okay. And
Reckoning.
how is that happening like with other nations? If China's selling, what's Japan doing
I
with
think
you?
Japan actually dumped all of their US. I think Japan dumped their US bonds like before COVID, if I remember correctly.
So that's already happened, and China's on its way. What about like England? Does it have any investments? And I don't know,
Yeah, probably. I know Germany actually had a lot of their gold confiscated and was held in trust by the states, and that they requested their gold. This was years ago, again, probably mid 2010s. They requested it. They said, "Hey, can we get our gold back? That'd be great, you know?" And America said, we'll get back to you." And
so
that
this is
created a cascade effect where a lot of nations repatriatized their gold from wherever that was being lent.
is this for World War II? They confiscated the gold? Is that
Yeah, yeah, they confiscated gold from Germany. They say it's because of World War II, but that's of course the propaganda version of the story.
that's the excuse. That's the good excuse that people
Yeah,
can believe. Yeah. Oh
yeah,
yeah, they took it from the Nazis. That's what
right.
they did.
Yeah, as if the people themselves were the Nazis. It's hilarious. Just
Okay.
group everybody in the same little
Yeah.
pile, right?
Well, is that part of the narrative? I'm really not up on the narrative, but like when they say they took it from Germany, that would be the reason is because they were the vanquished, you know,
Well,
and
yeah, the reason they say it was taken was, yeah, vanquished, but that Germany, the people, that is,
mm,
was at fault. But they weren't. They were infiltrated. That's what the whole Weimar period was all about. Between World War One and World War Two, they were overtaken. And then Hitler was that political leader that everybody gravitated towards because he promised to change. He promised to
yeah,
to
empowerment.
yeah, to get rid of the infiltrators and to drain the swamp, so to speak.
So who were the infiltrators? The Jews?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Yeah, that's a long story. That one there's a good documentary that I recommend for people to get a kind of a benchmark for what occurred. Still provides propaganda, but it certainly hits closer to the truth in terms of how things unfolded. And that is Europa, The Last Battle. And you can get it on BitChute. You can't get it on YouTube or anything like that.
Oh,
But that particular series, it's a long one. I think you're probably looking at about 10 hours of a documentary, and it's very gruesome,
no,
very
that's
sad.
really good for me
But
to.
even Germans, like, especially between World War One and after World War Two, even there was a period of time. I think if I remember correctly, after World War Two, something like 300,000 Germans were slaughtered in the streets, and it was because the people lost that war, right?
Wow. Is it possible? I don't know BitChute. Could you send me that link, Paul? Would that
Yeah,
be?
yeah, sure thing.
Ron he loves history.
Yeah,
And it sounds like, oh, look at that, cute little guys.
yeah,
Is that the the dragon riders? Monk, the monks of dragon riders with their orange robes.
yeah,
Oh, there it is. And that's BitChute. I'm interested in that.
yeah. BitChute is a good platform for people who get censored. I haven't seen anything get censored off of BitChute. It's not that great for creators. Like, it's kind of clunky.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's pretty important. Let me
Would I
just see.
just Can I just log into BitChute? Is that what I would do? Or
Yeah, bitchute.com.
okay, hold on. I'm gonna open up another tab. I'm getting smart now.
Oh
Bitch,
yeah,
bit,
yeah.
Choot, BitChute.com.
Yep.
Okay. Oh, this site can't be reached. Okay, let's reload. See what
It's
happens.
CHUTE.
Oh, CHU. Thank you.
Oh, yep.
BitChute.com.
This has got Russian. I can't
Oh,
see
there it
the.
is. Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna leave that open and I'll go do that later. That's perfect. Then you don't have to send me anything.
Okay, all right.
Thanks, Audrey.
I will send you the link for the first one. This
Okay.
this one here is, and then that way, Audrey, if you want to have this playing off in the background, this is educational. But just be mindful, folks, that it does depict the war very accurately in how it is that people were treated, and there are times where it is very emotional. And so be cautious of it. The energy that goes before and after the time you take to watch this needs to be mindful.
And which war is this?
World War II.
Hmm.
Well, and it starts, I mean, there's considerably more history to it as well. This entire series goes through basically every war for the last 400-500 years, tracing the happenings and how that control mechanism was sweeping across the world.
Mm.
So yeah, it's quite saddening. And some of the footage is very disturbing, but it is very, very educational.
I don't have a strong stomach, and especially at this age, in
Yeah,
any kind of really graphic, especially when I know that it truly happened.
yeah,
But I always, anything I watch, I know anything a human being can think of has probably happened. It's just, or it's happened in the mind,
yeah,
some kind of reality. So
yeah.
it makes it more real.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you, Paul, for that.
Yeah, you're most welcome. Bitcoin dominance. Moving on, we've got yeah, look at that, eh? So this low from November 2025, we beat that out. We got a little bit lower at the beginning of February, and again yesterday, 5 o'clock. But 5 o'clock our time, we created another new low. So that
Whoa.
trend is now getting set. Our next our next pivot point is going to be down here around 57%. That's very encouraging. We're not seeing it reflected in the prices of alts yet. And that's simply because volumes are low. We're not seeing people jumping to this, and that's because they go to places like CoinMarketCap. They go to the home screen and they see charts like this or this little meter that says that there's extreme fear in the market. And so because there's extreme fear in the market, they think they translate that into now's not a good time to buy.
Mm.
And so we're seeing that right now. Now it's only going to be a matter of time, especially when we start seeing that, BNB, coin number 5 overall, last week, they actually took their emergency treasury that was in dollars, and it was something like 100 billion, I think it was. Or no, maybe it was a billion. Anyway, they took their emergency fund and they actually exchanged 10% of their fiat in that emergency fund. They took 10% of it and put it into Bitcoin. The emergency fund.
Wow.
So when we see that happening at these prices, again, why would they do that? Why would they cut their emergency fund short with a purchase of Bitcoin if it's going to go down, right? They don't do those kinds of moves without knowing what's going on.
Who was
Now,
this again? B
that's
and B.
yeah, Binance is the
Finance. Oh,
exchange. Yeah, BNB is their token.
okay.
So with that, we will see Bitcoin still keep some dominance simply because the big players are, in a sense, stocking up. But the dominance itself trending downwards. In fact, at this point, let's go to look at the daily chart because this is a daily trend line. Yeah, so already we can see that this daily trend line is sufficiently broken. So I'm going to get rid of it. We create a new trend line now because this one takes precedence. Yeah, the next support that we'll probably see is around 57%. Once it gets below this range here and we start heading down towards 54%, you can bet your boots alt season will be in full effect. Yeah.
So, Paul, I'm sorry, I didn't know I wasn't muted. When you say alt season will be in full effect, that will mean that people will start buying altcoins, or is that what you mean? They're watching.
More market share will be going into the altcoins than Bitcoin. And Bitcoin being that gold standard of the digital world, it will still be a mainstay. It's not like it's not like it's going to be in bad shape. However, the majority of coins that are held, 58% of them are still in Bitcoin. So it has the majority. Once we start dropping down, like when we start getting close to here, here's 50, there's 50% right here. Once we drop below 50%, that'll accelerate quickly. It happened before. Let's go to the weekly chart and you'll see. Here is in 2021, Bitcoin actually had a dominance, the highest it had been since the altcoins were released. When we saw this original drop, this was back when there were only like 2 or 3 different altcoins. Ethereum, Ethereum and Litecoin. But then it dropped significantly when we had 2017 because all kinds of altcoins came out. Tons of them. And that's what dropped the dominance in crypto down to where Bitcoin was only 35% of all of the coins held. But then, of course, after that crash, right? Because we had the Bitcoin go up and then it went back down, everybody got depressed. But that crash ended up being where Bitcoin started to gain its dominance back again. And then it had a high that had not been seen since 2017 in December of 2020. And then alt season hit again, where the altcoins gained dominance and Bitcoin lost its dominance and it went down to find support at 39%. So when we start to get down, and I think it's going to be down, when we get down below that 50% mark, there's going to be a massive acceleration. And that we might even see it go down considerably further than it did last time, simply because of how much money is going to be put into the altcoin ecosystem, since the majority of that is silver. It's the equivalent of digital silver. It's going to be more accessible, more attainable. It's going to have a lot more utility. People are going to feel like they are part of the company. In fact, I think a lot of these coins are going to end up having, an expansion of community, similar to what we see with the meme coin world. Bitcoin prices at that low, currently forming a C. On the daily chart, we have completed a reversal, but C right now could go as low as A, down to 40. What is this? This low here is 50,000. 49,111 to be exact. That's the market structure. So right now, sitting at 63,000, we actually have quite a ways to go to get down that low. Yeah, it's not saying that it can't happen. It's only a 22% drop. But we also have to recognize that if it does drop down, it'll likely be out of more fear. And I think that what we see happening right now, the tensions that are rising in Iran are going to play into it. Whether it's even real or not, I don't know. How can we, with all of the AI produced content nowadays? But that, yeah, well, it's if there is the onset of war, I think there will be a little bit of fear and we'll see price drop even a little bit further. But that if Trump happens to continue his pattern of looking like the hero in these conflicts, because that's been the programming this whole time, this whole term. The programming for the people has been, oh yeah, Trump saved the day. So if that continues and war is subsided, I don't know what's going to happen, because the United States and their dollar, because the formation of it, is so far from the original silverback that was issued back before when it was a republic that the dollar needs war. That's why America has been at war at least once every single decade since 1913. It's because they need war to keep that dollar going. So if the war does not go on, what is going to happen? And I have a sneaky suspicion that what we will witness when I look at the language patterns of today, I think we are going to witness a transference of people's support for war to protect their countries from other countries' artificial intelligence. And that's going to be the playground of the war that inspires people to support the new version of war bond, which will be the various stable coins that are out there. That's my high octane speculation, simply because that's the pattern. That's the pattern that the states maintain. So, with lows currently at 64,000, coming back, recovery, remember, recovery is always where the most money is made. So in recovery, that would be a 98% rise, almost double. The next point that we'll be watching for is, if we zoom in a little bit on the daily chart so we get a little bit more detail, the next pivot, the next support level will be 59,000, 60,000. And then again, there's another level down around 53,000. We'll have some warning time if it's going to go much lower than that. Dollar cost average. Most of the money's made in recovery. I got to keep on saying that. Ethereum also at lows. Remember, this is the digital silver to Bitcoin being the digital gold. This is now starting to approach this long-term trend line. We're currently in a channel headed downwards. If we follow that, it says here that by the end of March, we may experience some support from that if we continue at that speed.
Paul, could you discuss just a little bit about because I know you've said this many times, most of the money is made in recovery. That's kind of like blazed here. But now when and before you say that, you go dollar cost average, because remember, most of the money is made in recovery. So talk to me a little bit about how that, say, now would be a good time to do dollar cost averaging because it keeps going down. It's going to hit a bottom and then it's going to recover. Is that kind of where you're going? And could you just fill that in a little bit? And
yeah,
and that's like a dynamic of this whole thing.
This
Hi,
is great.
Audrey.
Thank you.
I love your coffee cup.
Great question. And yes, thank you, Audrey-Lynn, for joining. I'm going to use the silver chart as an example here.
Okay.
And we've talked about in the past the different phases of the market, right? There's the recession where things go down, and then there's consolidation where things are kind of fluctuating back and forth between 2 points. We have recovery, which is coming back to all-time highs. And then we have accumulation, where we continue growing above the highs. Well, let's look at 2007, going into the crisis of 2008. We could see here that silver was recovering from the 80s leading up to 2008. It was recovering. Once it was recovered, right, it fell back down again. It had a mini recession. So this phase here starting here, this is where I'm going to bring this box over here so that we can see exactly where that is. And I can tell my mouse is delayed again. I got to figure out what that is because that's one of the most annoying things. All right, so there's that's the first phase where it fell down. Well, then it did come back. It recovered. And then after the recovery in August of 2010, after the crisis had been averted and everybody was saved, silver broke out above that and started to accumulate. But then it receded again. But and I'm just showing the pattern. Let's just look at this part here. This is recovery, right? This is where it fell down and then it recovered. So here, in this area here, the growth was great. It was wonderful. Look at that. From August of 2010 going into April of 2011, it went up 130%. But see, that's wonderful. There's nothing wrong with that. But they didn't make the most money because they made the money in accumulation. They didn't make the money in the recovery. Because if you bought down here, let's say, for instance, you didn't get the bottom. Let's say you only bought at $11.72 US. Before the others even started trading, you were already made 60%. So you already made most of the money. Even though, yeah, it goes up and doubles again, you still made most of the money because you made 60% before you doubled. So most of the money is made in recovery, is referencing how much more money you can make in the accumulation. So instead of doubling your money, now you're almost quadrupling it. Does that help?
Yeah, I'm getting like another layer of meaning and thinking like, I guess the biggest fear is like that I'm become aware of like is that, oh, now it's going on its way to becoming worthless. You know, like when you start watching it dip, like then the thought comes with Bitcoin, oh, this is going to become worthless.
Yep.
And so, see, you have a broader understanding of the financial world. Maybe that thought doesn't come to you. Your thought maybe is, okay, now this has happened. This is, you know what's going on with the different economies, and you go, okay, it is going to recover because of this, or the probability probably is a better way. It's more of a probability that it will recover rather than that it will keep, going downhill. So I don't, so that if you keep buying, when do you stop doing dollar cost averages on the way down? When do you do that? When you kind of say, okay, that's enough for now.
Good question. I will answer. Audrey Lynn, you've got something on your mind. Oh, hang on. I apologize. I went to bring you up so that we could see you. My mouse is delayed, and so I'm sitting here waiting. There we go. Oh, but you're not audible. We can't hear you. In short, Maureen, you never stop dollar cost averaging unless, of course, the asset is it's completely going to shit. If it's going to shit, then don't continue losing money. But the recognizing that the movements will follow that pattern, especially when you're in something that's going to go up in value, like metal. Go ahead, Audrey Lynn. Oh, but you're muted, technically.
There's a message there.
There we go.
With the asset becoming completely worthless, the thing is what Paul has talked about over time is that we follow the trends. And if the trend is showing that pattern of completely losing its value, where historically silver and gold, yes, they've done the wave, but they've always had some level of value to humanity. And so, yeah, and maybe that's where for you, you need to determine what is this asset? What is its value to me? And for me, it's realizing that nothing holds its value forever.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and you're muted now, Maureen.
I get it, that there's a time in history, like Paul, when you said that gold and silver will no longer be useful in the tech world. Right now, it's in demand. And when it changes, there'll be a devaluation, but gold will always hold some of its value. So I really trust that I've seen, because it's thousands of years. Bitcoin is a totally different thing, especially public opinion, having a pressure, like all my relatives think I'm nuts, for investing in Bitcoin or any kind of crypto, period.
Well, the thing is with the metals is that's a physical asset that we can touch, feel, and hold, where Bitcoin, it's a hope, it's a fantasy. So they're two very different assets. It's not apples to apples. It's oranges to grapefruit.
Yes, and I agree. There's very little. Well, let's just put it this way: that what I invested in Bitcoin is something that I thought, okay, I can lose this. Definitely. With gold, I don't feel that way so much. It's can I cash it in without being, but privately. Let's put it that way. Let's use that word.
This brings up another important discussion, and that is, what is gold worth? Because we were just mentioning this earlier in the call. We're still walking around worldwide, mostly in the Western countries, we're still walking around saying gold is worth $5,100 US. But it's not. It's not worth that at all. What it's actually worth is in its capacity to buy things. That's what it's actually worth. What's the purchasing power of it? We measure the purchasing power in accordance to the dollar. But again, the purchasing power of gold doesn't change. 2,000 years ago, a Roman centurion could dress himself finely by spending an ounce of gold. If he spent an ounce of gold, he would get fully attired in fine clothes. It's the same today. You want a nice suit? You want a nice, pristine suit? You're spending $3,000 minimum. Everything else technically is cheap, and you can be identified by not having a suit that properly fits you. It's not been tailored properly, and so on and so forth. And so the ounce of gold keeps its purchasing power. So my stress with gold, especially silver, not as much, but we can get into that in a second. But gold is not an investment. It never has been. It's a hedge against inflation. That's what it is. And the only thing that we're seeing on the chart here is not the appreciation of the value of gold. It's the devaluation of the dollar. No different than how we've been looking at the US 30 and comparing the price of the US 30 to gold. The purchasing power of the entire economy is dropping significantly.
Would it be fair, Paul, to say that a potential, instead of valuing gold, the metals against the US dollar, that they be valued against the energy contracts?
That's exactly where we're headed. What does it take to keep our citizenry warm in the wintertime? We have to consider that. What does it take? It takes energy. How much is that energy worth? Well, it's not worth the dollar. It's worth what people are willing to pay to stay warm. And if they're not capable of staying warm, that doesn't change the value of the energy. It is a reflection of the fact that they don't have the means of exchange anymore to pay for the energy. The prices of energy do not go up. Well, I should say the value of the energy does not go up. It's the value of the currency that goes down. And so, yes, the renegotiation is on the table. Why? Because otherwise, these countries are not going to have a people able to stay warm.
And that is a legitimate concern in like a majority of the planet, you know.
Especially the countries that value life. Yeah, I mean, it's obvious Israel doesn't.
On maids with Canada.
And then Canada with, oh yeah. There was someone in the States last week talking about how, people were being told by healthcare professionals in the States that suicide is an option. If the things are just crazy, suicide is an option. And I commented underneath it and I said, oh, but that's such a terrible thing. Make sure that you don't traumatize your family with, a shotgun, swallowing the barrel of a shotgun and pulling the trigger. Make sure you don't do that. Go move up to Canada where you can have a doctor do it for you. And then that way your family will just take it so much better. It's disgusting. Yeah, Canada doesn't value life. America still has, that's what I like about America. America still has that core republic lying underneath this facade of governance called the United States of America. But the United States, the original republic, still lies there. And I think that there is incredible generational principles that have been carried on throughout the hundreds of years since the republic was formed. But the people have simply forgotten who they are. That's all. I think the republic, based on, well, look at how it was built. Of course they valued life. ADA, we talked about ADA yesterday. We have consolidation, definitely consolidation on ADA right now. Oh, let's wait for the mouse to, there we go. So ADA consolidating at the moment, we can see that this high here that was formed, this is the C right now on the daily chart. A, B, C. No, actually, with all technicality, that's B there. We did extend. This is in technical terms, this was an extension. So I'm gonna have to remark that. But that aside from that, currently we are in consolidation. We formed this high after that dip. We formed this high on February 3rd, dropping down to the low on February 6th. And ever since then, we have not created a higher high or a lower low. In fact, the highs are getting lower and the lows are getting higher. So we're seeing that consolidation. Now, where does this head? Where does this take us? Don't know. But what I've been recommending is that if we end up coming back down to these lows, I'm going to recommend that people put pending orders. Now, this is going to be more so for people who have ADA in reserves and they're looking to maximize their returns. If we go down and we tempt those lows at 22 cents US again, that's where I would be placing pending orders at the pivot points. So the pivot points that we see here, there's one at 25 cents. There's another one at 26, 27 cents. And another one, of 30 basically, 29.30, yeah. Using those as pivot points, you will create pending, what we call sell limits, where if the price comes back up, you'll be selling. So you can get the most out of that sale. And then when the price dips back down again, and we may very well create another new low. Let's go look at market structure. Currently, market structure on the weekly chart is sitting at about oh man, weekly structure right now is sitting there with 21 cents. 21 cents. So yeah, be mindful that if it goes down below that, the next pivot point is going to be at the highs before the alt season of 2021, which would bring us around 17 cents US. And so if you were to place pending orders at this time, it wouldn't even be a bad idea. But I would want to see us get out of this consolidation first. So if we start creating another new low and we tempt this low again, that's where I would create the pending orders at 25 cents, 27 cents, and again at 30 cents. Maybe even 29, just so that you catch it, just in case. And then you're going to sell, my suggestion would be sell 25, 30% maybe. If you wanted to be a little bit more aggressive, you could sell 50% of your ADA and buy again when it goes down to that 17 cent mark, because that'll be about 35 to 40% off. Let's go see here. Let's measure it out. Yeah, so it's 33% off from here right now. At 17 cents, you take that money that you took out. Now remember, you're just dollar cost averaging. That's all you're doing, but you're dollar cost averaging the other direction so that you are selling back into fiat at those higher price points and taking the fiat. You're not taking the money and putting it into your bank account so you can go spend it. You're keeping that dollar so that you can buy the ADA on sale when it's at 17. That's the strategy that I would employ.
So there's no tax consequence if you don't take the earnings, right?
That's right.
Okay.
That's
well,
right.
And we aren't talking about very much anyway, but well,
It's a good point. What I would do is that I would have that, just send it over to your Kraken.
Yeah.
And then it sits there in dollars for the time being.
I'd like to do
and then
that.
When you're ready, to just bring it back over into your ADA wallet.
That would keep me interested. Don't talk when you eat. You're eating, Maureen.
Gesundheit. Good health to you. Injective token also at lows. One thing to be mindful of is that if we do end up going up with ADA, we need to see a good solid rise above this level here. Right now, the pivot point to watch for is 38 cents. So we would need to see a good solid rise above that, using that level as support before I'm ready to say, yay, we're bullish now. I've softened my views on that because deep down inside, I want this to be done. Deep down inside, I want this to progress. And so sometimes that sentiment comes forward in my analysis, and I have to remember, no, be technical. Be technical. This is definitely a strong bottom. Market structure, we're there right now. Look at that. That's the weekly C right here. We are right there, just above it. So this is going to provide a lot of support, and is also going to provide some resistance if we go below it.
Paul, what happens to the companies? Like when you have
They usually change their prices. Oh, well, I guess we're going to have to charge more ADA, right? Or more, whatever the coin is, more Ethereum, more whatever, because, people who are in this industry still do need dollars to pay their bills, right? Now, ADA as an ecosystem doesn't have a whole lot of people doing that. If you're just buying ADA at the exchange level, typically speaking, you're going to be tossed about the winds of emotion, right? But most people who have ADA, who recognize what this is, they're not letting go very easily. And if they are, it's because they simply know that there's going to be a price action coming. It's not insider trading even. It's just, oh yeah, well, look at, the rest of the ecosystem is losing volume. We're seeing more and more fear, and the greed is not a part of the market right now at all. And so then they say, oh yeah, I'm just going to go and switch it out. But they'll put it into, most of those people, they're using KuCoin, which is a different exchange, simply because they can very easily turn their coins in and out with the stable coin. So now they're not even bringing it back into dollars. They're bringing it into USDC or USDT, which is that stable coin. But they're doing the same thing that I've explained here. They're just buying the asset back again as it goes on sale. That dollar cost average strategy, I'm gonna follow up with that. Finish this off with that statement there. That dollar cost averaging strategy is important because you need to practice it both ways. It's one thing to buy into an asset as the dip goes down, but you also need to sell out of that asset. Remember, exit strategy. Your exit strategy is a dollar cost average as well. That's why I say, like, remember that money is made in, most of the money is made in recovery, right? So let's say, for instance, we're going to recover. I'm just speculating here. Let's say we recover. Well, recovery to the previous high of this trend, recovery is 408%. So my strategy would be, okay, so that's going to provide some major resistance. Oh, I couldn't mute fast enough.
Bless you.
Thank you. So my strategy here would be, if we get above this red line, I've got this red line here, and I should really move down all my pivot lines so that they are more accurate to where we are right now. But I keep this one here because once it gets up to this point here is when I would start selling as it goes up. And I would stop selling once the price was up around that, $1.19, $1.20 range. And then wait, because there's going to be resistance there. You can bet your boots there's going to be resistance, and I'll be ready when that resistance hits and we see a price come back down to probably 90 cents, because that's where that pivot point is. That's when I'll be starting to buy again, and I will continue to buy as it retraces downwards to whatever support it finds. Dollar cost averaging works both ways.
I'd like to play with that, just in a sense of really anchoring it in my brain, as an experience of how to do that. Maybe we could set something up the next time we meet together.
Sure.
That would be good. Yeah. And show me how to do it, and I'll narrate it, and maybe you could use your analyzer, your what is it, note taker, so I can put it in my folder about how to do it, what to do and what button to click and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know. Is anybody else interested in that? Audrey? I'm Audrey. I just say Audrey, and then there's two Audreys. There used to be clubs of women that would get together, and they would just buy stocks and sell stocks as a group.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I wouldn't mind doing that. Just, you just take like play money.
Yeah.
And then it's not like individual, but that you all suffer together and then you all are related together. I always like to do it in groups. It feels safer or something. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, well, that's, oh wow, we're already at an hour. Market analysis for Tuesday.
What is midnight? Is that night?
Yeah, this is midnight right now. We got above that pivot point that was providing some resistance in the past. We got above that. Currently, it's providing support. But at the same time, you can see that we did intersect this trend line from the low.
Uh-huh.
So technically right now it's a point of indecision. But of course, I would definitely be dollar cost averaging this asset. I think that midnight over the next 2 years will likely 20x, simply because of how much integration it will have with all the other coins.
That sounds really good. Just the integration that they're going to have and the
Yep.
usability, and that maybe,
Yep.
Maybe that's something, well, of course we can use it then, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and the main net goes live at the end of March. So when that happens, we'll probably see another big spike, simply because there will be so much more use. But yeah, I think that midnight would easily become $1 over the next couple of years. Awesome. Any other questions? Wunderbar. Well, everybody have a good rest of the day. We'll see you Thursday.